We are going to give everyone just a couple of minutes to join here. I think people are still trickling in. Elena or Simone, can you confirm that for me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Give it just a minute.
Perfect. Okay, we'll give everyone just a couple more minutes here. In the meantime, if everyone just kind of wants to drop into the chat your name, where you're coming from, what institution you were with, I love to kind of just get a feel for who's in the room with us. Elena, Simone, do you guys want to also introduce yourselves so everyone knows that you were here too?
Absolutely. Well, hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Elena Carroll, and I am the VP of Corporate Development and Marketing. So we are excited to see you today.
And Elena is from North Carolina as well. So I don't know if we have any folks from North Carolina on the call. I think we're going to give everyone maybe until just about 6:02, 6:03, and then we can launch into things. Okay, we'll give just like one more minute and then we'll get started. All right, Elena, what do you think? Should we get going or should we give it a couple more minutes?
I'd say let's get started.
Okay, perfect. All right, let's launch into it then. So good afternoon, everyone. Where you're coming from, Adam, I see you're from San Clemente. I'm from Long Beach, so just up the road there. Just want to welcome everyone on behalf of everyone at Upswing. We're so thrilled to have you with us today for our conversation on maximizing student success through a partnership with Upswing and how it is not too late to implement any of Upswing's resources for the fall semester. So we are going to be walking through the suite of Upswing's holistic student support, highlighting really how proactively honing in on each individual student's needs can foster unique engagement, increase students' academic and non-academic well-being, and ultimately lead to increases in retention and graduation rates. So I know that sometimes when we think about choosing and introducing new resources on campus, we think of it as a massive undertaking, which can oftentimes, delay decisions, and ultimately then it leads to delayed outcomes for your students. So I'm really going to focus in a little bit today on how easy it can be to onboard with Upswing and make these resources available to your students in time for midterms. So for those of you on the call that are already partners of Upswing, welcome. We're so thankful to have you here. And, I say it every time, but it's because it's true every single time. We are so honored to walk alongside you on the journey of ensuring every single student is fully supported and successful in their academic journey. And for those of you on the call that are not yet a part of the Upswing family, we are so pleased to welcome you as well. And I really do look forward to introducing you to the Upswing mission, just in case you are kind of new to it. So during our time together, please feel free to drop questions into the chat. Alina and Simone are both with us, so they are more than ready to help answer any questions that you have and that come up as we're kind of going through things here. And alternatively, I am going to leave some time for questions at the end. So don't be shy. We love questions over here. So feel free to drop them in the chat again, or, wait till the end as well. So before we start, I do want to just take a second to ground us here as we walk through kind of the roadmap of our time together. Our main goal here is really to walk you through Upswing's, founding story. We really want to talk about what it looks like for Upswing to help our partner campuses move from being reactive to proactive. What does that mean? What does that look like? And what are the benefits of doing that? Then we want to talk about some of the Anna insights. If you're not familiar with Anna by Upswing, don't worry, we will get to that as well. So we will fill you in on everything in just a few minutes here. And then we really do want to talk about Upswing's wraparound services. So all of the resources that we provide to our partner institutions, focusing in again on mental health and well-being. I think that's a really key resource. So I want to park us there for a little bit as well. And then I want to talk about data and impact. What is not on here that I really do want to talk about as well is that onboarding and implementation piece. I want to make sure that all of you know and feel really supported that implementing Upswing is a breeze. So we'll walk through what that looks like as well. And then, like I said, we're going to leave some time for questions at the end. But first, I just want to introduce myself. Some of you on the call already know who I am, but just in case you don't, I'm Rebecca. I'm the VP of Revenue over here at Upswing. That means I oversee our new partnerships team as well as our HERO team. So HERO stands for Higher Education Retention Officer. We really do consider every single person and institution that we work with our partners in this work. So, we make sure that every single institution that we partner with has a dedicated HERO to work with. They're there to meet with you monthly. They help you synthesize data. They help you walk through best practices, do trainings. I mean, you name it, they are your go-to person for all things Upswing. And I do have the honor of leading both teams. But I also have a 15-year background in higher education. I studied to be a human rights lawyer, so equity and education and equitable resources especially for marginalized groups, has been something that I've been deeply passionate about for a very, very long time. But I'm also a first-gen student, and I am a dual citizen of the United States and Portugal. But that's just a little bit of an insight into who you're going to be spending the next, 52 minutes of your time with. But there is another person's story that I do want to talk about, because I don't really feel like we could talk about Upswing without really talking about the story of our CEO and co-founder, Melvin Hines. As a mission-driven organization, it's really imperative to ground us in not just who Upswing is and why the organization was founded, but into just the mindset of all of the people that work here. I think it really grounds us in, again, not just what we provide, but in how we do it. So Melvin founded Upswing just about 11, I think almost 12 years ago now. He grew up in South Georgia, where he attended a high school with very limited resources, funding, or access. And as such, he was one out of only 68 students to graduate out of a class of 250. He then went on to the University of Georgia and found that he was quite underprepared for the entire college experience and entered in already what he says was just a league behind his classmates. He did end up graduating from the University of Georgia, despite having what he says was like the odds just so stacked against him. And then he founded Upswing really based on the belief that where you're from shouldn't dictate your success in life, and that every single student should have access to the same support resources, regardless of who they are, where they come from, or where they live. So when we do talk about the students that Upswing aims to serve, I do want to ground us here. It is these students. It's the non-traditional, historically marginalized students, the first-gen minority students, low-income students, students from rural communities, the adult learners, the student parents, the working students, the veterans, right? Really at Upswing, we do believe that every single one of these students that we're listing here is so much more than just that label, though, right? They're more than just a low-income student or an adult learner or a student parent, or whatever title it is that we give them. And as a result of that, there is so much more complexity to the why behind students are not being retained, persisting, and especially graduating, because of, what we say is the intersecting identities of every student and, every person for that matter. There are a host of different identity structures that make up a person. And therefore, it could be any one or more of those identities that threaten a student's chance of making it to the finish line. So, yes, the student could be first gen and low income, but they could also be Hispanic, Catholic, and part of the LGBTQIA plus community, right? A student can have financial shortcomings, but they can also be, I don't know, like an Air Force veteran, 40 years old, trilingual, and they live in a very urban setting. A student is not just one thing. They're not just one data point. Like no person is, right? No person on this call is, no person in the world is. And so because we are all so complex, it could be the meeting of any point of the students' intersecting identities that could be the cause threatening their ability to make it to the finish line. So here at Upswing, we believe that we have to honor that individuality, and the resources that we build and provide to our partners must also do the same thing. Because when you build resources with the intersecting identities of these students in mind, you truly build inclusive resources for all students. And so it allows us to think through, again, the complexities of the barriers that exist between not just the creation of academic and non-academic support for students, but in also ensuring that the students actually use those resources after all of the blood, sweat, and I'm sure many of you can attest to the many, many tears that you put into creating them and making them available on your campus. So all of that is exactly the mindset and strategy that went into building Upswing's holistic student support resources. So if we wanted to serve and create waves of impact for non-traditional students, we knew that we also needed to flip the traditional student support model on its head. And so speaking of that traditional support model, most of you on this call can agree that the traditional student support services model tends to look something like this image, right? So the student is at the center, each department is on their own little island, and each student is trying to figure out where to go, who to talk to, what they need, how to even know what they need, and how they can cross the uncertain waters to try to answer literally any of those questions. And that's only if a student even tries to leave that isolated island there in the middle in the first place, right? But this is also true for the data for each support resource, tool, and service, right? It also means managing multiple different resources, partnerships, logins, contracts, and usually paying exponentially more for 10 different resources. I mean, I think the list could go on and on, right? I think we can all agree that the tech fatigue now is very, very, very real, which is a large reason, all of those reasons are large reasons why Upswing knew that the only true solution had to be providing resources that takes all of those islands and all of those different resources and places them in one single location, right? So centralizing the academic and non-academic support your students need by creating one hub, a one-stop shop for both students and the admin teams that work tirelessly to support them. And that is exactly what we did. Upswing designed a holistic student services platform that was built to truly wrap around every single student. In other words, it's an ecosystem designed to support the entire student. Our goal is really to extend and amplify the work that all of you are already doing on all of your campuses, because we know that there's already so much incredible work that you all are doing. Our goal is simply just to ensure that we can pick up wherever it is that you all leave off. And if there are any gaps, we can walk alongside you to fill those gaps. So we have academic support with 24/7 synchronous and asynchronous tutoring, both the ability for your campus tutors to be on our platform, as well as for you to access the hundreds of Upswing tutors that we have in over a couple hundred different subject areas, basically a place for peer tutors and supplemental instruction, also advising, early alerts and analytics, mental health and well-being resources, teletherapy, and Anna, our engagement, belonging, and information powerhouse, all in one centralized location. Again, this just means one access point for students, one tool to manage for admins, and every single thing that I'm mentioning here comes with streamlined data for every single resource. Now, all of those resources that I just listed are fantastic, right? Like a host of different academic and non-academic resources, again, along with all of the additional resources each of you have across your institutions that we haven't even mentioned here today. They all have incredible value and create a lot of impact. But, and I want to highlight the but here, the key thing to keep in mind is that these resources, as well as all of the resources you make available to your students at your individual institutions, are only as good as they are accessible. So I want to say that again. All of those resources that you work so hard to bring to your students are only as good as they are accessible. If students do not know about them, if students do not use them, it is almost as if you didn't have them in the first place, right? And I think that this is where a lot of institutions find themselves, really at this juncture between needing to make the resources available to students in the first place. And then when they're available to them, it's like an entire other hurdle. Okay, well, how do we get them to actually use these resources then? And that is because really most student resources are built from a solely reactive model, right? Meaning it will require the student, that student that was, there in the middle in that little isolated island, to seek out the services in order to use them and in order to access them. And what we have found during the course of the last, decade plus designing resources for students is that oftentimes the students that are struggling the most are the least likely to raise their hands and ask for help. So if the students that are struggling the most are the least likely to seek out the resources that they're going to need to help them, it leaves us in quite a predicament, right? How do we ensure that the students that need the help actually get it? How do we ensure students know about the resources available to them? How do we ensure that the support teams that work tirelessly day in and day out have the resources they need to intervene and act in real time, instead of knowing if a student is struggling only after they've already stopped out or dropped out? Well, over here at Upswing, we really believed that the only answer and solution was to create both a proactive and reactive resource to wrap around every single student. So both the students that raise their hands and the students that don't, truly available for every student every single day, no matter what. And that is where Anna by Upswing comes in, because this is exactly what we did, right? We created a proactive and reactive resource that reaches out to every single one of your students and then draws them into conversations, right? Then routing them to the resources that they need in real time. You're seeing Anna over there on the right, actively at work. If you're saying to yourself, it just looks like a text message, that's because that's the beauty of it. It lives right on the students' phones, exactly where your students are all of the time. So Anna is an SMS-based student engagement and belonging tool that is powered partly by AI and partly by humans. By humans, we mean we have an entire incredible Anna Upswing team that interacts and responds to students every single day. So we create 13 to 15 data-backed campaigns to send out to students throughout the course of the semester at every single one of our partner institutions, ranging from providing them information about deadlines and campus resources to proactively asking them how they're doing, inquiring about their mental health and well-being, and linking them up with tutoring services, or sometimes even just sending them a note of encouragement and being a listening ear, right? Students can also message Anna at any single time, day or night, whether that's to, ask for, the location of the Learning Commons or the Learning Resource Center, or to chat with someone because they're struggling after the passing of a family member. So we also find, though, that Anna is not just a support tool for students. It is definitely a tool that also wraps around our partners as well. So with admins reporting that Anna has helped relieve them of up to 50% of student questions. Imagine a world where you and your colleagues have that type of time back in your day without ever feeling like you are compromising the care for your students. Over the last year, Anna has engaged in over 2.5 million conversations with students, ranging from things like who can send the best dad joke, or deadlines and reminders, study skills, academic resources, or conversations around basic needs support and ensuring that every single student has what they need to feel safe, secure, and supported. I'm not going to spend too much time on this slide, but if you're interested in what do messages between Anna and students look like, these are the core types of messages that we send. We send decision tree messages. So on the right, you're seeing, or on the left, you're seeing one here. And if the answer that a student is going to send back is, let's say Anna's sending something like, are you prepared for midterms? And the student answers one, yes, I'm thriving. I have every single thing that I need. Maybe that's where the AI part of Anna can kick in, right? But If the student responds back, no, I'm really struggling, like I don't understand the content, I don't have time to study, there's all of these other things happening in my life, that is when the human part of Anna kicks in. And that's when our Anna team will make sure that they are having those actual conversations with students. So something I wanted to really draw attention to is that we could have made Anna all AI, right? That was a business decision that we could have made. But because Upswing is a mission-driven organization, and the way that we look at success is by the impact we're having with students and the types of students that we aim to serve, we really want to ensure that if a student is brave enough to speak up and to say, hey, I'm not doing so hot, I need help, regardless of what it is that they're talking about, that they should be honored with a real life person on the other side of that conversation. And we really do believe that that makes all of the difference in the interactions that students are having with Anna, which I will get to actually in just a second. So we really do believe that just bringing a resource like that to students is incredible, but we did want to take it one step further. So every single partner that uses Anna also gets a customized data dashboard where not just every single campaign that we talked about is tracked, but every single individual conversation that a student has with Anna is tracked. So talk about bringing early intervention and real-time data to a whole different level, right? So this dashboard here shows a higher level data of what, like, the number of messages that students have received from Anna, the number of messages Anna received from your students, the engagement rate, all the way down to the themes of conversations. So for example, say your students are consistently asking about financial aid resources, campus deadlines, or they're having repetitive conversations about food insecurity. This dashboard is going to show you all of that data. But again, it's going to show it to you in real time. So just imagine what's possible when you're able to proactively gauge overall student well-being right in the moment that the student might be having an issue or a problem, versus trying to synthesize what happened, right, only after the end of a semester or the end of an academic year when those students maybe have already stopped out or dropped out. And I don't know, maybe the best part I would say of working together with Anna is that we set up escalation processes with every single one of our partners. So whether that's basic needs support, or unfortunately at a few of our partner schools, we've gotten some messages from students with suicidal ideation. Anna is really there to make sure that every single student receives the type of support that they need at the exact time that they need it. And sometimes that's honestly before a student even realizes that they need support or intervention in the first place. So just to show you the power of this, at just one of our partners, just one, and this was over summer, we had 18 escalations to the campus admin. So 3 of those were the student had identified that they were going to drop out, 2 had signified severe emotional distress, and 3, unfortunately, had identified that there was a suicide or self-harm risk. So again, just the power of making this resource available is incredible, and just the support that it provides students, but the deep level of insights and data that it gives you as support teams for these students is another thing. And I think that this data point really says it all here. So Anna increases the likelihood of graduating for our partner institutions by 13.7% over the baseline graduation rate. This is something that we are incredibly proud of, because I think it really speaks to the fact of wrapping around every single student cannot be understated enough for the impact that then can have for every single one of your students. Now, it was important for us to not just stop at making the data that we gather available for these Anna conversations only to our partner campuses, because there are critical insights we've gathered through those millions of messages, and those insights can make a huge impact across any single one of our institutions, whether we're partnering with you or not. And this is exactly why our team put together a very large Anna Insights report that takes all of the findings we've gathered through those millions of conversations with Anna over the 2023 to 2024 academic year. So this report aims to really illuminate the challenges and experiences that students are having across our partner institutions. And this is particularly focusing in on those non-traditional and historically marginalized student groups. But really, by sharing these insights, we hope to inform and support admins in enhancing their strategies for student engagement and success. And so all of the data for this report really was gathered through both Anna's proactive and reactive messages, literally every single message that Anna has sent back and forth. And again, all of these messages were designed to offer information, reminders, connections to resources, connection and a sense of belonging in general, or just overall encouragement. And so the responses that we found from these students really show their needs, their concerns, their sentiments, their well-being, their lack of well-being in some cases. And our student success team, and they are really, really trained and they're incredible, the conversations they have with students every single day, but they're trained to act really as an extension of our partner campuses. And what we found is that this really played a critical and crucial role in analyzing this data and improving the campaign content over and over and over again. So we don't just send campaigns, we really look at, are students engaging? Are they responding? What is their response rate like? What's the engagement rate like? How can we make it better? And then when we get responses, we really try to figure out what is the exact response that that specific student needs instead of just getting some sort of canned response, right? So this report, this Anna Insights report, is available for every single person on this call. It's available at any time, whether or not you're an Upswing partner, whether or not you use Anna. Everything that is in this report is so valuable and critical and can immediately be implemented into action onto your campus. So there are 6 key insights that the report goes over. I'm going to list them here. So the first one is an insight into, non-traditional students and financial insecurities. The second one is social support for students in a post-COVID world. The third is utilizing different ways to talk about mental health. The fourth is supporting the whole student through non-academic resources. The fifth is the need for career preparation resources. And the sixth is comparing student sentiment at the beginning of fall versus in the spring, which I think is particularly interesting. Now, since we don't have enough time, unfortunately, to dive in deeply into every single one of these insights on this call, I wanted to offer a couple of highlights to show how valuable this report is, as well as how valuable Anna is as a whole. So I'm just going to go through the first one, and really just talking about non-traditional students and financial insecurities and walking through, the first part of this is going to walk through industry trends, really what we're seeing on the topic now. The second part then is going to dive into an example of what a FAFSA campaign message looks like that was sent to over 60,000 students. We all know all of the issues that have happened with the FAFSA over the last year. We don't need to go about it, but it was really critical and crucial for us to take a deeper dive and look into how has this actively affected the students on our partner campuses that are utilizing ANA. And where are the critical places of intervention that we can help act at to make sure that students are supported through this journey, especially because it was so complicated and so confusing for so many students. And, so many then students noted, and we asked here if they were going to submit the FAFSA. The data showed us that 89.1% of the respondents indicated that they were going to submit a FAFSA, which showed us that we needed to write then 3 more campaigns to push to students to ensure that they had all of the necessary information that they needed to follow through, feel supported, and feel encouraged on that journey. We know that this is a critical piece to ensure that especially those non-traditional, especially those marginalized students are going to stay in school and they're going to stay in their seat. And again, it then allowed us to have further intervention and provide them with more resources where it was necessary. So the ANA team built campaigns on reminding students about the FAFSA. That was the first one. The second one was on the scholarship season and just ensuring that students knew about the resources available to them for scholarships. And the third was on money management resources, including things like, low-income relief opportunities to help students pay bills and non-tuition expenses, as well as honestly really helpful resources for, just having them manage their personal finances. So again, we are definitely going to send everyone that's interested the full report, the ANA Insights report. But I want to highlight the impact that ANA can make on your campus and with your students. It really, again, it just cannot be overstated. So whether you are a current partner not using ANA or a prospective partner on the call with us not using ANA, the team would love to chat through what ANA could look like on your campus. I know it probably seems like I've been talking about this a lot, but I barely really scratched the surface of these insights and all of the value and impact that ANA can have for the admin teams, again, for the student support teams, but exponentially for the students that all of us really on this call are trying to serve day in and day out. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears slightly here, and I'm going to start focusing in on the rest of the holistic student support resources that we offer here at Upswing. So Anna is a very, very critical piece. And really what we say is Anna is the thread that connects all of the resources together. Anna is the one proactively reaching out to your students and making sure that they are being drawn back in so that we can connect them to the rest of the resources that we are going to go over today, depending on what it is that they specifically need. So let's dive through some of the tutoring here. So I really want to ground us here. So when we talk about what type of resources Upswing offers synchronous and asynchronous tutoring. So one-on-one tutoring support, as well as what we have is assignment review, a place for your students to be able to upload assignments and have them looked over and have that help with our tutors or your campus tutors asynchronously. But I do want to ground us in some of the differences. And again, as a mission-driven organization, I think it's important for us to talk about the decisions of why we offer tutoring in the way that they do, in the way that we do, and what makes it so different, because it is those differences that make it that students end up reusing Upswing tutors. They love Upswing tutors, and it's going to make all the difference for the actual impact that this is going to be able to create with your students. So through Upswings, we have two different modules, again, the synchronous and asynchronous modules. They have 24 access to Upswings tutors, your campus tutors, or both. You can choose one or the other, or to have both available. They have immediate access. So when we say 24/7 and immediate access, we mean 24/7 and immediate access, right? So there's no waiting queue for students. Students don't go into this long line taking 45 minutes for them to be able to, access a tutor. It's immediate availability. And our tutors are required to have their audio and video on. I want to stress this point because this is something that is foundationally different for Upswing. Again, as a mission-driven company, we really believe that if a student is going to raise their hand and ask for help, it's a very brave thing to do. Any single person that says, hey, I need assistance, and we believe that we should honor that bravery by recognizing that there's a real student on the other end of that. And what that looks like for us is making sure that that student is met with a real live person on the other end of that screen. In the same way that I'm talking with you right now, right? My video is on, my audio is on. The goal is that that is going to provide a deeper level of connection, but it's also so that every single tutoring session is one-on-one. So our Upswing tutors are not there, audio, video off, just doing a chat queue, and they're working with 10, 15, 20 other students at the same time, right? The student on the other side of the screen is going to know Rebecca is here with me. I can see Rebecca live. I can hear her voice live, and she is only focusing in on me. We believe that every single student deserves that. And additionally, we have a tutor marketplace. What this tutor marketplace allows is it allows for every single student to have agency of choice, meaning they should be able to decide who they meet with. We don't want to just match them with somebody random. We want them to feel comfortable, already increasing the likelihood that they're going to show up for that tutoring session because they chose the tutor that they're going to get that session with. So what you're seeing here is a brief little video walkthrough, right? So it's showing our tutoring module, and what you're seeing now is our tutor marketplace, where Zach is having the option to go in and select a tutor that he wants to work with. He can read their bio, maybe see the spoken languages that tutor is fluent in. Maybe he feels more comfortable getting tutored in Spanish versus English or whatever it is. But again, it's just making sure that every single student has the agency of choice over their experience. And maybe it could be that Zach wants to meet with a tutor that he feels has a similar lived experience. It doesn't matter, right? It's whatever it is that makes Zach feel the most comfortable. We know then is going to make it so that Zach is going to show up for that tutoring session, complete that tutoring session, and be engaged in that tutoring session. Every single data point that we have here is going to be recorded. So for your campus tutors or our campus tutors, and just making it so that everything is synchronized, everything is together, creating, a really seamless experience for your students. Again, this is another little video here, but what this is showing you is our virtual learning classroom that is embedded into the Upswing platform. So again, the tutor has their audio and video on, and our student Mateo can join with his audio or video on, completely up to him whether or not he wants to do that. But you can see that they're having a nice little chat session there on the right. but he has uploaded his assignment. They're working with it live back and forth. The beauty of having a virtual learning classroom, instead of sending students to Zoom or sending students to Google Meets or whatever it is that every single thing is then recorded down to the minute, right? Of how long that these students are with the tutor, and how long that they're together, what's happening within the session, every single thing. So wanted to also then just highlight here a couple more points. Won't go through this. We've already kind of talked about this on the previous slides, but again, this is what it kind of looks like for a student to have the experience with the synchronized tutoring. They can search for their subject area. We link and match with all of your enrollment database. So if, let's just say, Zach really wants to get tutored, or in this case here on the screen, it's Mateo, really wants to get tutored in college algebra, and on your college campus, college algebra is Math 101, that's what it will show up here for Mateo when he's searching. It will show Math 101. Again, it's all of these things that we've designed to be different enough that the student experience is going to feel like we're just trying to see what are the potential barriers that a student might, encounter on their journey, and how can we help remove every single one of them? Because we know that if a student feels there's too many barriers, that is 1, 2, 3 more reasons that they might not actually end up using the resources that they want them to. Again, I'm not going to go through this one too much. We've already kind of gone through this. But on the right, what you're seeing is just a very brief walkthrough of assignment review. So a student can asynchronously upload an assignment, and then the tutors on our side or your campus tutors can provide inline feedback for those students. And as a part of that, we also have a writing lab with a citation engine, different asynchronous videos on the writing journey to help them with that process as well. Again, I wish that I could spend so much more time diving into all of these resources with a lot more depth, because there's so much here. But another resource that we have is this advising module, which allows institutions to place all of your advisors or your peer mentors or your success coaches, literally whomever, on the Upswing platform. And just like with tutoring, there's also that marketplace. So it allows students to easily schedule a meeting with their dedicated advisor or advising team, or they can, search through all of the different support people that you have on campus in different core areas. It's completely up to you. Everything that we've gone over is very customizable to match whatever it is that you all need on your campus. Or they can do drop-in sessions. So you're seeing right there on the right that the advisor is toggling on the available now button. So you can also do drop-in sessions with your students. And then also along with this advising module, we have early alerts and analytics to help drive student usage to the Upswing platform. But it's also just to make sure that you always have holistic eyes on where your students are doing, not just with advising, but with tutoring, with their conversations with Anna. So when we look at the data that we can provide, right, we're providing a much more holistic view of how your students are. So, and as I mentioned at the top too, we also have mental health and well-being resources. This is the mental health module in the Upswing platform. Zach can log into this module. He then has at his fingertip access to hundreds of different psychoeducational videos on topics such as depression or testing anxiety or whatever it is. We call these videos as kind of like the first stepping stone for students, usually when they're kind of getting into their mental health and well-being journey. We know that a lot of our students do not come from communities, families, or backgrounds where this type of thing is really talked about. So this gives them kind of a safe place to explore these topics without them ever having to maybe talk to somebody else. But usually what we find is students start here, and then they go on to the other mental health and well-being resources that we offer here at Upswing, which I am going to dive into a little bit now. So just as I shared Melvin, our co-founder and CEO's story of the reasons why he started Upswing, and then which led him to provide and create all the resources that we now provide to students, Cody is our partner, Better Minds CEO and founder. And he has a similar story in that he had a deep crisis when he was in college. He was in a fraternity. He was a gay man, and he was deeply struggling with his identity to the point where he said that he had suicidal ideation because he couldn't figure out how to make sense of his identity, how to fully own it, how to still be accepted in the communities that he wanted to be accepted in. And he really credits to him walking in to that session at his college campus counseling center as the thing that saved and changed his entire life. And he realized that not every single student is lucky enough to have those resources or to have had somebody that was available for them at that time. And so he really founded Bettermind on the similar belief of why Melvin started Upswing, that every single student should have access to critical mental health and well-being resources at the exact time that they need them. So we partnered with Bettermind to ensure that we can provide teletherapy and well-being resources to every single student. So there is no copay, no insurance, no barrier. So for the partners that already have a college campus counseling center, we will work with you to figure out how it is that you want us to provide this for your students, whether that is, making sure that students are able to access it whenever they want to. Maybe they need a referral before they access it. Our goal is just to make sure that we are filling in, again, whatever gaps it is that you have. So these are 50-minute teletherapy sessions. And the same way that you saw that a student can, go through a marketplace and choose a tutor that they want to work with, the students can do the exact same thing here with their therapist. So it was very important for us to make sure that there was 3 really critical things that we were providing to students through their teletherapy journey. One was availability, making sure that, again, no matter when, students had access to these resources if they needed them. The second, as I mentioned before, was a diversity of counselors, right? So sometimes students prefer to choose a counselor that they feel comfortable with. And we've usually found that stems from students really preferring a counselor that has a similar lived experience to them. So something to note here is that we make sure, and we work with Bettermind to make sure that no matter where you are, no matter what state that you're in, we have licensed counselors available to meet with your students at any time. And the third one is safety, right? We want to make sure that students feel that their mental health journey is being destigmatized, that there's nothing wrong with needing mental health support. And it's actually a really beautiful thing to raise your hand and to say, hey, I just need a little guidance in this area. So we really designed the experience with Bettermind to mean that every single student, when they first access these resources, takes a very brief intake questionnaire. It's going to ask them key critical things that matter to them, what they need assistance with, kind of just where they're at in their life. And then we recommend counselors to them based on what it was or those themes that they identified. But again, they can go through and they can choose through a tutor marketplace any single tutor that they want to work with based on, what makes them feel the most comfortable. So I know we're going over a lot here. There's a lot of different resources, but I'm gonna power on and carry through because I do think that, I know that we've already shared some data, we've already shared some insights, but when we're looking at, why as a partner you would want to make Upswing and Upswing's resources available to your students, I do think it's important for us to park ourselves here for a little bit, to go over a couple more data points and show that, the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So when we talk about making these resources available, they're great in and of themselves, but I think the data really speaks for itself on its own here. So Upswing has helped prevent over 75,000 dropouts for our students. 4.9% is the statistically significant increase in student retention that Upswing makes. 0.05 is the increase in GPA students see with every paper reviewed by Upswing tutors. And 7.9% is the increase that we see in student engagement. So these are just a couple of the data points that we have. If you are particularly curious about anything else that we have regarding retention, persistence, graduation rates, engagement rates, let us know and we can definitely provide you with some of that as well. So now that we've talked about who Upswing is, what we offer, why it matters, the rich insights and data and outcomes that we can provide to our partners, I do want to spend just a little bit of time talking about the nuts and bolts of what it looks like to partner with Upswing and make these resources available to your students. Because we do understand, right, that choosing a partner is one thing, choosing resources is one thing, but really feeling confident in a smooth and easy implementation and onboarding process is kind of another thing entirely. So let's chat about that for a moment. So this is what it kind of looks like for our partners that kind of come on with us at Upswing. And I know that right now is a very critical time, right? Everyone is focusing and looking at back to school. We're launching into the fall, but we know that there's probably quite a few of you on this call that might not have one or more of the key resources that we went over. So I want to reassure you that it is never too late. Just like the title of our webinar said, it's never too late to implement any of these resources. So Onboarding, depending on the resources, that you're looking at and implementing, can take anywhere from 3 to 12 weeks. So all of our partnerships include single sign-on integrations and a fully mapped out onboarding and implementation calendar to really guide you through the entire process. So this includes customization meetings and trainings with your hero and so on and so forth. So we'll provide all of that for you kind of upon launch. And speaking of your hero, so our hero and customer success teams have really been designed, again, I already went over this, but I want to emphasize it again, to really be a true partner for you. Because Upswing was designed to create impact, that also includes how we structure our organization internally. So your hero is your dedicated point person, literally for all things Upswing. So our hero meets with all of our partners monthly. They provide support, they help run reports, they synthesize and interpret data, and make overall best practices and recommendations. So to help easily launch our partnership, you also are going to receive access to our engagement kit that houses ready-made and customizable resources, and that's for all Upswing resources. So you'll get the same thing for BetterMind if you chose to use those resources and the teletherapy and well-being resources as well. So we have a fully mapped out onboarding and implementation calendar and timeline ready to go for you. You have a hero and a customer success team that is there to walk you through step by step every single part of the journey. And then you also have, and this is honestly only one of quite a few different resources that you're going to get, but ready-made resources that you can immediately put into practice and play to help market and immediately start engaging your students. And to be honest, Anna does an incredible job of that as well. So, all right, we've been going for 46 minutes here. But, over the course of our time together, I hope that you were really able to see a glimpse into the depth and breadth of what a partnership with Upswing looks like. And you do walk away from our time together with the confidence that a partnership with Upswing is one that has been designed to create demonstrable impact. And again, it's never too late to make these resources available to your students. So we would love to chat with you about ways in which we can make these resources available that we've gone over today, any resource. So you can choose to use all of them. You can choose to use 1, 2, 3. Again, our goal is to really talk with you all and figure out what it is and where are the gaps that each of you in specific have on your campuses. And then we can talk about ways in which we can help you fill them. So I hope that this has been helpful. I hope that this has been beneficial for you all on the call. And I do just want to make sure if you all do have any questions that we can help answer them. So I think we have about 13 minutes left here. So I think that there has been some in the chat. I haven't actually looked at them. So Elena, Simone, I'm not sure if there is anything here.
Yeah, so I think we had a question that was submitted ahead of time, Becca, that you might want to address now. So someone asked if you have any recommendations or experience with how funding sources can be used to pay for Upswing.
Oh, that's a fantastic question. Yes. So we work actually very, very closely with the grant departments, grant writers, grant recipients on all of our partner institutions' campuses. And so for honestly, almost every single grant that I can think of. So we work with all of our institutions to make sure that we can then provide and either help you with key points and insights into writing the grant itself, to writing Upswing into the grant, because some of our partners have done that, or to just figure out, right? We know that a lot of our partners, when they're utilizing these grants, are going to be having to look at very, very, very specific outcomes that they have to meet. So we can talk about ways in which we can, work Upswing to help match all of the outcomes that you're looking at in order to secure those grants. So we have heaps and heaps of experience with grants. And honestly, Upswing is such a shoo-in for a lot of these grants, especially for these student populations that we're working with.
Thank you.
Of course.
I don't see any additional questions in yet, but I think another question that we often receive is related to student engagement and how Upswing encourages student engagement either with our products or with resources on campus. So maybe that's something you can touch on.
Yeah, thanks for that question. I think that's a really good thing to touch on. So I think engagement is key, right? So when we were talking earlier about making sure that, providing the resources to students is one thing, but getting the students to actually use the resources is another. So when we look at engagement, we can kind of take it from a couple of different angles, but the way in which I'm going to kind of choose to take this is making sure that your students are engaging with your campus resources, maybe even engaging with one another, engaging in some sort of way with the resources that you all have worked really hard to provide them for. I think that's really critical, and the reason why we really wanted to focus on the reactive model with Anna, or the proactive model with Anna, right? Making sure that we are actively reaching out to students and then having these individual conversations with them. They're not batched, right? They're not an AI robot just responding to things. We're making sure that through that conversation, we are saying, what does that individual student need? And then routing them to the right resources at the right time. Again, this is both for Upswing's resources as well as it is for all of your campus resources, but this can also be for your community resources as well. So when we focus in on engagement, it's making sure that every single student feels heard, seen, right? And then we can make sure that regardless of where they're at in their journey, that we can then make sure that they are routed to the right resource that they need. And I think that that automatically increases engagement, as you saw on one of those data points there, right? 7.9% increase in engagement with this model that we have, really proactive and reactive at the same time.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I know,
sure.
another question that we often receive that our audience might, want to hear a little bit more about is all of the subjects that Upswing is able to cover with our network of tutors, and kind of what happens if, for whatever reason, we don't have a subject covered, how we're able to offer support there.
Yeah, that's a really great question as well. So currently, Upswing offers tutoring in over 200 different subject areas. If anyone is interested, we have a sheet that we can provide you that shows all of those different subjects. It's quite a lot. And the great thing about our resources as well is we don't just have tutors available for undergrad courses, but we also have tutors available for undergrad, grad, and PhD level courses. So we have bachelor's, master's, and PhD leveled tutors. And I think this is especially good to point out that we have all of the key critical areas for nursing available as well. Oh, perfect, Elena. Thank you so much for dropping that. That's really helpful. And then as well as a lot of the key critical areas for STEM courses, because we know that those are notoriously difficult to staff for and to make sure that, our partners have adequate tutoring for. And then for any of our partners that might say, like, we just have this rogue course, we can't find any tutoring in it, but we know that students need support. Again, this is something that's a different thing for us as a mission-driven organization, but we will actually work to hire tutors specifically for that course for you. So even if we don't have it available now, it does not mean that we can't work to get tutors available for that course.
Wonderful. Yes, and I did post the PDF that includes all of our available tutoring subjects, and we definitely have quite a lot there. And
Yeah.
as you said, very well staffed in nursing subjects, which we know seems to be a high interest area.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't look like there's any other questions in the chat or any ones that have come through. So I just want to, again, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you everyone for being with us. I believe that they are going to send out the recording for this. So if you want to share with anyone that was not able to be here, or to share any of these documents as well, please do let us know. And again, I am more than happy to meet with anyone personally as well. Here's my contact information. Feel free to reach out to me anytime, and we would love to schedule a time for us to chat. So thank you again, everyone, for being here, and we look forward to hopefully meeting with you all soon. Bye-bye.